Hello everyone, so this video is going to be showing you how to embed processed mouse tissue. This is going to be focused on embedding vertical cross sections of your tissue. So if you had your colon or any other kind of organ and you cut it into little chunks, you can stand them up vertically and get a nice cross section across the entire piece of tissue. There's obviously other methods as well, like if you had a colon quill or anything, you could still use this method and just place it down on the bottom, let it solidify, and move forward with it. You have a couple different options for how you want to fixate your tissue. It's going to really depend on what you want to look at. Formalin is kind of one of the classics, and it's going to preserve a lot of your immunological epitopes really well, but it's well known to kind of degrade your mucus layer and not preserve it that well, and that's something my lab focuses on very heavily. So we tend to use carnoids, but instead of ethanol we add methanol as the main type of alcohol because this has been shown to reduce shrinking of the mucus layer and kind of preserve it. There's a number of antigenic epitopes that get preserved in carnoids, but it tends to degrade a lot of them. So this is all up to the user and how they want to fixate their tissue. Processing as well, you're going to kind of fine tune that based on what you're doing. We have a Lico processor available to us, so we do our own processing, but if you don't, you can always send that off to labs to process. I'll be showing you how to do this process on a Leica Arcadia embedding system. There can be some minor differences in how your piece of equipment's going to operate, but it's all going to basically be the same. The first thing I like to do is make sure that the working area is nice and smooth. So I'll take a razor blade and scrape off any excess wax that's accumulated. This just helps to make sure that your cassette doesn't tip or anything when you're moving it around. Next, I like to fill the entire cassette with liquid paraffin. Make sure that you're using a deeper cassette if possible, because this will give you more time to work with. Alright, so now that you have your cassette full of wax, you're going to want to have all of your tissue off to the side on the warming tray, cut and ready to go. I like to use a razor blade and cut little segments of my tissue about 1 centimeter long. This gives you a nice flat surface, and as you can see, when you move the liquid wax onto the cooling tray, you're going to form a small layer of solidified wax on the bottom. If you have nice flat pieces of tissue, they'll want to stand up in this solidifying layer of wax, and that wax is really nice and sticky as well. So as long as you can work really quickly, you can put these pieces of tissue standing up, and they'll kind of grab onto that wax in the bottom, and as it solidifies, it holds them all in place. Now in the beginning, I'd obviously recommend working with less pieces of tissue if possible, and then working your way up, because it's really a trial against time. Once you get it onto the cooling tray, you only have about a minute or two until the entire thing starts to solidify, and then you can't work inside of it. But as you can see, if you in my video here, if you keep moving the cassette forward, you get a little bit of working area that stays liquid, And so that gives you more time to continuously add pieces of tissue, and you can just continue working along until you have all of your tissue inside of there. And then you'll put on the top of your cassette, and you need to be careful to make sure that there's actual liquid penetrating through the top of the cassette, so when it solidifies, it forms a solid piece with your block. And now you can move this onto your cooling tray. And just a final little tip here, if you get a lot of wax on your fingertips, it makes things really annoying and tends to stick to your tissue and your cassette and everything you're working on. So what I like to do is actually put my gloves onto the cooling tray, and this will solidify the wax on my fingertips, and then you can just break it off into the trash, and it's not going to cause you any issues.